Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm glad you're here. This channel is all about making real estate feel a lot less overwhelming and a lot more useful. So, I don't know whether you're a homeowner, maybe you're thinking about buying, thinking about selling, or just trying to stay informed about what's happening in and around Denver Metro. My goal is really simple: give you clear, practical information and just helps you make better decisions. So, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today, not just houses, but how to think about home ownership in a really in a smarter way. For most people, buying a home is not just a transaction. It's one of the biggest financial decisions they'll ever make. It affects your monthly budget, um, lifestyle, long-term plans, sometimes even how your family's structured and your future. So it deserves, more than a quick headline or just some kind of rushed soundbite type conversation. So what I want this channel really to become is a place where you can come in for honest education, ask questions, get some local insight, and get a grounded perspective on the market. Obviously, we all read the headlines, and it can be very reactive, and especially here in Denver metro area where things can shift quickly. Even every neighborhood can kind of have its own personality, and we love that here, right? As Colorados. So let's start with the big picture. When people hear the term real estate market, I'm at a party and people go, "Hey, Robin, what's the market doing?" They often think of prices, either going up or down, and yeah, that matters. But the market is much more than that. It's also about inventory, interest rates, timing. There's buyer demand, seller expectations, which were really high coming out of COVID, 2020, 21, neighborhood growth, um, what people are actually able to afford, month to month. There was talk of a 50-year mortgage. So, there's homeownership's a big deal and it affects a lot of the economy as a whole. And so that means the right decisions obviously are not always the same for everyone. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is trying to copy someone else's real estate decision without thinking about whether it fits their own life. So just because your neighbor bought last year or your co-worker is, waiting for interest rates to drop, I hear that a lot. Or maybe your friend sold in a weekend, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right, move for you. So your situation is your situation. So that's why education matters. So a lot of people start with the question, what can I afford? That's a good question. It's only the beginning. A better question is, what kind of monthly payment feels comfortable? And how long do I plan to stay there? So we're getting 30-year mortgages for homes that we won't be in for more than 10 years, for example. What kind of home actually fits my life? Uh, in my 27 years, I've seen people get the 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, and then it has a formal living room they never use. I can't tell you how many bachelor's homes I've sold and they only lived in 15, 20% of the house. So affordability is not just about the purchase price. It's really about your whole picture: principal, interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, homeowners associations. That's a whole nother animal. Um, and really the lifestyle that comes with that home. A lifestyle in suburban Westminster is going to be really different than downtown Cherry Creek. And that's something I think more people need to hear because in Denver Metro, we've got a wide range of housing options, and that creates a lot of opportunity, but it also creates confusion. So you've got these really cool historic neighborhoods, literally homes that are, 125 years old that have been completely renovated. You've got newer developments, condos, townhomes, suburban communities, foothill type adjacent areas, and everything in between. So each one has pros and cons, and each one serves a different kind of buyer or even homeowner. So when someone asks, where should I buy? The real answer is usually another question, what are you looking for in just day-to-day life? Do you want a shorter commute? Do you want more space? Do you want lower maintenance? Walkability is really important, especially for those more active people that want to be out and about and in the community. Do you want to build equity, stay long term, right? Do you want to live in this as your first home for a couple of years, 3, 4 years, then turn it into investment? We see a lot of people doing that, right? Building generational wealth. Flexibility. I have other friends and clients that are serial entrepreneurs, and they want to go where the area is hot, right? Because they literally make their living in collaboration with other people. And so those are the questions that lead to smart real estate decisions. And if you already own a home, that matters too. What are you going to do with it? It's not passive. It's an ongoing part of your financial life, and you need to know what your home, is doing for you. Is it building equity? It's not an asset, right? It's asset is something that pays you. Um, Assets are a great holder of wealth, builder of wealth, but they're not really assets. They cost money, taxes. You got to maintain them, and a lot of people aren't fit for that. So you got to ask all this. What's the right fit? Are you maintaining it in a way that protects its value? Is there an opportunity to refinance, update, reposition, for future moves? So a lot of homeowners wait until they're forced to think about these questions, and the better approach is to stay informed before you even have to make a move. So that's especially true here in Denver metro area, where local trends can vary, a lot from one area to another, and what's happening in one part of the metro might be really different just a few miles away. So, broad national headlines are useful, but they're just, they're not enough. So, this is all about a local context, knowing what buyers are responding to, what sellers are doing, where demand is strong, where affordability is tightening, um, and then understanding these topics and how they affect your options. So that's the kind of stuff that we talk about here. And I also want to talk about timing, because timing is heavily misunderstood in parts of real estate. A lot of people, I hear this all the time. I'm waiting to see what this administration is going to do, what the war is going to do, what interest rates are going to do. There's no perfect time to buy or sell, right? It's all a crystal ball conversation. Um, I have clients right now that are trying to sell that bought in 22, just the height of the market. The homes were selling for 10% more, all cash. It was just feverish, and didn't make sense. And that market since corrected, and now they have no equity and they want to move, and they're like, what do we do? So, um, to look back and say, well, I wish I'd sold my home in 22, or bought 10 years ago. It's an exasperating conversation. And really, most successful real estate decisions really come from being prepared. You're informed, and you're ready when the right opportunity appears. So it's not about predicting the market. It's just positioning yourself well. And if you're buying, that means know your numbers, understand your financing options, be clear about your priorities. Before you even start touring homes, what is this home going to cost? What's it going to cost to make it the way that you want it once you go in, especially if it's older? And if it's going to have ongoing maintenance because it's older, what does that look like? If you're selling, that means understanding your home's value, and that goes beyond, just a Zillow a Zestimate, right? Those things are very helpful. I'm not making fun of those, but knowing how your property fits into the current market and making sure that your strategy actually matches your goals, that's the key, right? Knowing what you'd have to do to make it worth that Zestimate. That Zestimate can actually be very accurate, but they don't know the condition. Zillow doesn't know what's going on inside your home, if you've taken care of it, if you need a new roof. And if you're just really just watching these things from the sidelines, that's okay too. Sometimes the smartest move is really learning first, watching others, so you can get confidence and then act. So one of the reasons I'm so passionate about homeowner education is that the more and better people understand real estate, the less intimidating it becomes, right? And so when people hear terms like inventory and days on market and equity and rate environment or seller's market. Right now, I hear people saying it's a buyer's market. It's not a buyer's market. A buyer's market is over 6 months inventory. A seller's market is under 3 months inventory. Right now, we're sitting at about 3.6. So it's softening. We're kind of right in the middle, but still a little bit on the seller's side because inventory is low. So everything can get really technical. And these are all just tools that help explain what's happening, right? So, um, inventory tells you how many homes are available. So you start getting on supply and demand. Days on market tells you how fast homes are selling and what buyers are doing. Equity tells you how much value you may have built in your home. Um, but then where people get caught is how do you get access to that equity? If you go to sell your home, it doesn't just because your appraised value doesn't mean that's what it'll sell for. And then you have expenses of selling, whether you're hiring realtors, title policies, getting it ready, all of that. So it can be really deceptive. Sellers will say, "Robin, I've got $300,000 in equity." I'm like, yeah, well, your house needs $100,000 worth of work because you haven't maintained it. It's going to take another X amount to fix it, and sell it. So interest rates obviously affect all this monthly affordability, and the balance between buyers and sellers helps really shape what the negotiating power looks like. And so when you know what those terms mean, the market stops feeling like a mystery. And that's really the goal, to make it understandable. Because once you understand the language, you can make better choices and know where you kind of fit in. So let's talk for a moment now about really what's happening in and around Denver Metro, more broadly. The region is continually evolving. It's really remarkable. The regentrification, the new stadium coming in, people move here for lifestyle, access, opportunities, the community, the mountains. God, they're glorious. So that creates steady interest in housing. Um, but it also means that the market can respond quickly to changes in rates and supply and buyer confidence. So some areas stay competitive because they offer convenience and that really strong long-term appeal, but other areas create opportunity for buyers who are, willing to look a little differently or expand their search. Some homeowners are sitting on strong equity. Some of them are at interest rates in the twos, and many of them want to go, and they don't because they don't want to give up that 2.5% interest rate, which I can appreciate. We'll do other videos on how you can capitalize on that equity, as well as the existing finance when we do more videos on sub two and some options that make your mortgage actually assignable as well as assumable. Two very different terms. We'll talk more about that. So, um, anyway, all these situations are valid, and there's no one size fits all message. That it just doesn't work in real estate. But I can't tell you how many people say, what's the bottom line? What's the it's a picture, and what works better is a local, practical approach. What do your goals look like? What does your budget allow? What neighborhoods make sense? What kind of timelines are we working with? What's your outcome? I'm working with one buyer right now. They're a young couple. They want to build generational wealth. So they're looking at buying multi-unit properties they can live in and then build that over time. And so if you ask these questions honestly, you're ahead of the game. So I also want to say this for anyone who feels a little stuck right now. You do not have to have everything figured out before you start learning, right? There's guys like me all over the internet wanting to educate people on um, the businesses we've been in for 20, 30 plus years, because it makes it easier when the client understands these things. And so learning's how you figure it out, right? The learning's in the doing. So you don't need to know the perfect neighborhood, price point, um, to make a move. You just need to start asking better questions and gather better information. So that's what this channel's going to be about. We're going to start talking about what buyers and sellers need to know and what it takes to jump in. What sellers should understand before they list, before they hire realtors. What does that look like? How to ask the right questions. We're going to talk about what homeowners should watch if they want to protect or even improve their position. Um, and we're also going to cover, what's happening just around Denver Metro in a way that feels useful and not overwhelming. So, the more informed you are, the more confident you become. And confidence matters. Confidence will help you avoid emotional decisions, stay focused when the market feels noisy, and really recognize opportunity when it shows up. And so it helps you make decisions and you can feel confident about later. And that's really the whole idea here. So if you're new to homeownership, my advice is really quite simple. Focus on the basics first, right? Know your budget, understand your financing options, think long term, and choose a home that supports your life. Right? I see buyers, they look at houses and they start reasoning it in their head, and it's like I sometimes tell them, it's kind of like dating. You just kind of know if you've met something, if you've seen a house that's exciting, right? You'll feel it. It's in your body. It's not in your head. So, if you already own a home, start thinking like a strategist. All right. Many homeowners want access to want access to their equity, and they don't know how to get it. So if the home is worth this and they think they can sell it for X amount and they owe this and they start doing numbers and it's like, well, your house needs 100 grand. You haven't maintained it, and you're going to have expenses and marketing expenses and realtor expenses to sell it. And so, ask what your home is doing for you now. What could it do for you in the future? And are you even still aligned with this home and your goals? And so, and if you're somewhere in the middle, hey, just know that this process doesn't have to feel rushed. Real estate really rewards clarity, preparation, people who take their time to understand what they're doing. And that's what I hope to help with here. I want this channel to be a resource you can trust, a place where you can get straightforward homeowner education, useful market insights, and a more grounded view of what's happening here in our great city of Denver. So, hey, thanks for spending this time with me today. If you found this useful, please stay tuned. Feel free to subscribe or share this with a friend that might be in the moving or buying process. And there's more to come. And we're going to keep making real estate more understandable, more approachable, more fun, more useful, just one conversation at a time. So, and if you want to book a call with me, there'll be a link down below in the description. Hey, I'm Robin Austin Reed, a local realtor here in Denver. I look forward to talking to you again.